All right.
All right, thank you. Governor, we don't have a lot of time, obviously, so let's get right to it. What is it about Alan Fung that makes you want to put your name behind him publicly? I know you've endorsed him in the past when you ran for governor, but what about this campaign in particular that attracted you?
We need more people like Alan Fung in Congress, people who are smart, who vote their principles, and will work across the aisle. And Alan's got that experience being from a state like Rhode Island, being an elected official here. I want someone who's going to go down there and listen to the other side and try to find some common ground. And I think that Alan's the kind of guy who will do that. And it's the biggest reason I think he'd be good for the House.
Help me understand, help our viewers understand. Here's a guy who twice ran for governor and lost. Yet here he is less than 4 weeks from election day. He's got a 6-point lead in a district that President Biden won by 14%. Jim Langevin had 17% victory. Here he is, 6-point lead. Is it more about Alan Fung, or is it maybe not a lot of enthusiasm for Seth Magazine, or maybe a combination of both?
I think it has more to do with Alan Fung, but I would also say it has to do with the times we're in right now. People are feeling horrible economic anxiety. They see the inflation that's going on, how much it costs them at the supermarket, how much it costs them at the gas pump, and they're feeling that. And I think that they feel like Alan will be a common sense guy who will go down there and not just vote with leadership all the time, but will vote for what's best for Rhode Islanders. And I think with Magaziner, quite frankly, they think he'll just be another vote for Democratic leadership.
Democrats, Magaziner are going to hammer him. They have, and will continue. I'm sure they'll ramp it up even more. That if the Republicans gain control of the House, which if Alan wins certainly helps that cause, they're going to cut Social Security. They're going to pass a national abortion ban, and Alan will basically be a yes man by default, if for nothing else.
Well,
how does he fight against that?
Keep speaking out and telling the truth. And I will tell you, I asked him about it flat out on a national abortion ban, and he said absolutely not, that he would never vote for a national abortion ban. So, you know, the Magaziner campaign is just lying about Alan. And I've seen Alan say it. I saw him say it to a reporter today in Situate. We were at the art festival. He said it flat out again. Yet I was here last weekend visiting my son who's at PC, and I saw these ads saying that Alan Fung was for a national abortion ban. He is not. And here's what I know about Alan. Alan will vote his conscience, and he will not just vote whatever way Kevin McCarthy or whoever the speaker is tells him to vote. He will vote what he thinks is right, because he knows if he doesn't, that Rhode Island will take him home. They're not going to let him go down there and be something that they don't want. So he will vote how the people up here want him to vote and what he believes in his heart.
So given the current climate in Washington, the way the National Republican Party is, you feel there's a place for a moderate Republican like Alan Fung. And if he does vote the way he says he's going to vote, he could end up in political Siberia.
We can't become a majority party again in this country without having Republicans from places like Rhode Island and Massachusetts and Connecticut and New Hampshire and Vermont, all throughout New England. We need to start electing Republicans to the House again. If we don't, we're never going to be able to have a sustainable majority. And you know what that means? It means that we're going to have to work together and we're going to have to compromise. Oh my God.
Do they want to
compromise?
Do that,
well, guess what? I think they like being in the majority more than they're opposed to compromise. I think that'll happen.
Good point. What does he need to do between now and November 8th to bring this home?
He's got to do two things. One, something that he does naturally. He's got to work really hard. I mean, you can't look like you're taking any lead for granted here. And while I'm encouraged by the polls, he's got to work really hard. And second, he's got to be out there letting people hear from him directly, not just on TV, but hearing from Alan Fung directly. And the great thing about Rhode Island is you can meet a lot of your own voters in the 2nd Congressional District. A lot of states you can't do that. Here you can.
Who does he remind you of, the Republican mold of Alan? Some names maybe?
He kind of reminds me of one of my predecessors, former New Jersey Governor Tom Kean. He was a guy who spoke from the heart, hard worker, and brought people together. And I think he reminds me a bit of Governor Kean. Alan Fung is that kind of uniter.
As last poll, I'm sure you're aware of not only the 6-point lead, but he had roughly 25% of Democrats supporting him, conservative Democrats. How does he continue to build on that and, more importantly, bring independence over by November 8th?
I think it's the same formula. Talk about the economic anxiety people are feeling, what he thinks Congress needs to do to bring inflation down. You know, I was at the supermarket the other day. I picked up a bag of Tostitos for $6.59. It's insane. And people who are working hard, like folks here in Rhode Island, making a working class living, how do they continue to fill their shopping baskets at the supermarket and put gas in their car? That's the stuff he's talking about. And we know that the Biden administration created this problem along with the Democratic Congress by their crazy spending. Alan will vote to pare that back.
As far as you want to talk about you for a minute. I read your comments on Bill Maher recently that asked about presidential run in 24. Yes, you said you were considering that or thinking about it. Tell me about that. Why is that a good opportunity for you potentially?
Look, because I think our country needs someone who knows how to be tough, but also knows how to relate to independents and Democrats. The problem with the Republican Party is we've done a lot of losing lately. Since 2016, we lost the House, we lost the Senate, we lost the White House, we lost 2 winnable Senate seats in the state of Georgia. I mean, I'm tired of losing because the results of those losses are trillions of dollars in spending, higher taxes, and a situation in our country where traditional values are not being any longer enforced. And so I think that the American people want a president who can do something much, much different, work with the other side, and stand up for what he or she believes in. So I think there's an opportunity there, but I won't make any decision probably till early 23.
Okay. But as far as 22 goes, midterms, what are you expecting? A red wave, backlash to Biden, or maybe not so fast?
I'm expecting backlash to Biden. I think we'll take the House. Very important to win here in CD2 for Alan Fung to be able to do that. I think the Senate is a jump ball. Could go either way. I think Republicans wind up taking it 51-49, but it could very well stay at 50-50. We'll add some governorships, I think, around the country. We're at 28 now. I think we can end up at 29 or 30. So I think there'll be a significant Republican win. But remember, too, because of redistricting, there's not as many competitive seats anymore. So you're not going to see 50 or 60 seat turn. I think it'll be more like 20 to 25.
So last thing, is the Republican losing based on the fact that there's backlash to maybe getting too extreme, too conservative in this country?
I think the Republican losing is a reaction to the actions and behavior of Donald Trump. And I don't think there's really any dispute about that. Certainly, we lost those 2 Georgia Senate seats because he went down there and did something completely wrong by spending time talking about himself and how he thought an election was stolen, which was not stolen. And he depressed turnout in Georgia, and we lost 2 Senate seats because of it.
If he runs or doesn't run, does that have any influence on what you would do?
0. I think anybody who makes a decision to run for president based on what someone else is doing should be disqualified from running for president. If you don't believe in your heart you're the best person, and no matter who else runs, that you're going to go and try to make a difference in your country, in my view, you got no business running.
Well, he's not going to like that, is he?
Well, who cares? I've been his friend for 21 years. I played Hillary Clinton in debate prep. I played Joe Biden in debate prep for him. I've worked hard for Donald Trump over time, but when he's wrong, he's wrong. And a guy from New Jersey calls out a guy from New York when they're wrong.
All right. Governor, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time. All set, guys.